Okay, it's the Friday session, and Bitcoin's down about 0.25%. I'm going to attempt to show you what's going on. I think Bitcoin's going to bottom around this area, and I think it's going to rebound back up to the 200 period as we get the 50, the green line right here, crossing below the 200 period moving average and get a death cross. I think you're going to rally back up. But again, any rally back up is a gift to the bears, presenting yet another shorting opportunity and another opportunity to the longs, to the bulls, to exit their long positions. But again, most of them won't do it. Most of them are going to end up riding it all the way back down. We're going to come down to the April low eventually here and get this head and shoulders. We're going to get a massive rally back up, likely by late December or more likely into January when the Fed does emergency rate cuts. It's coming. Bitcoin is going to end up dropping 41% to 52% before this is over. You got the same people telling us that oh no, Bitcoin hasn't topped. It's just going to keep going. 4-year cycle's dead and adoption. Eric Trump said this. Michael Saylor said that. Donald Trump said this. And it's a bunch of hype. Reversed up major resistance in the weekly time frame, as I called the very day of the top and warned you. Risk of a top going into that trend line. I saw evidence of a top, so I called a top. And I think I'm going to be proven correct on this. Now you have to excuse me. The sound may not be perfect. I've had to go in the hospital. I had to get emergency surgery. I've been making videos from bed. The microphone might not be perfect, so I hope the sound isn't too bad. Try not to have the microphone too close here. I'm moving it right now a little bit further away as we speak here. Now, I just want to say this. Everything I've told you, I've been brutally attacked for calling a bottom. And again, present both the bullish and the bearish side. But I told you there was risk of a top, and then when presented with the evidence, I told you I thought we were topping. That's why I called a top. Oops, sorry, I had a cough there. That's why I called a top on October 6, 2025. A lot of people don't want to hear that, but again, I'm a trader. I'm not interested in the bullish side. I'm not interested in the bearish side. I'm interested in the right side of the trade. I'm presented of evidence that we're going to go higher, flip back to bullish. I see evidence of a top. That's why I flipped. And a lot of people have a problem that I flipped. So I got extremely bullish when I called the very day of the bottom down here because I have good indicators. Again, we were going to go make new highs. Then we started going sideways. July, August, and then October, we slammed into major resistance, and it's 1, 2, 3 strikes and you're out. Started seeing warning signs of a top on my weekly charts. Told you about the diversions in the weekly time frame on the RSI and other indicators like the price oscillator. Everything I've said has happened. We peaked. We had a sell-off down to 100,000. I predicted back up at the top. Remember I talked to you about that? I was mocked, I was laughed at, and yet everything I've said has been correct. Moon boys keep telling us, oh, this is a bottom. No, this is a bottom. No, really, this is the bottom. They're trying to call another bottom right here. We're going to bounce likely around here at the 50-week moving average and here with Bitcoin's average price, but you're probably going to rally to the 200 period, and you'll probably see the bottom begin to fall out of Bitcoin. The only other hope I see for the bulls is that if we can try to go higher, and I told you when we rallied up to 116,000, again, that was the final exit point in all likelihood. Only other hope is if we form a leading diagonal and we get a bigger retracement, which I think is much less likely. I think it's more likely we're already in crash wave 3. And we're about to crash down to the April low back over here. But again, any rally back up, we're seeing more and more distribution. You've seen nothing but distribution into the rally, a sell-off, 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 into the rally, a sell-off. You're seeing evidence of distribution. People that, oh, they're biased, so they want me to be biased, and they want me to turn back to bullish. I'll turn back to bullish if my signals, which are correct, turn bullish. My signals are warning me of a top, and I'm going to stand by that. When I called the top in 2021, I called the very day of the top, just like I did right here, because I have good indicators. They were doing it to me back then, too. attacking me, telling me what a dope I was. I was right, and Bitcoin crashed 52% and later would end up crashing 78% and entering the bear market. Like I told you, again, I don't think we're going to go back above 116,000 again until the Bitcoin cycle, and I don't think we're going back above 124,000 or 126,000. Pardon me. I think that was the top when I called the day of the top into resistance, as I told you at the time. I had multiple topping signals on the 6th, 7th, and 8th, and I shared those with you. I shared the bottoming signals back over on the 7th, 8th, and 9th back over here at the bottom. And again, my signals are absolutely incredible. Now, I've warned you about this head and shoulders, and I've made it more of a horizontal neckline. I think you're going to go back up and either back test that or try to get back above it and move towards the 200, move towards maybe this trend line, excluding the shadow. But the 200, the black line, it's a little messy there, but I've got a lot of moving averages. I think you're going to try to bottom around here, maybe go a little bit lower, try to bottom right here and now, right in this area around Bitcoin's average price. I'm looking for a bounce towards, 106,000 here. If it's a more feeble bounce, back to the 10 and 20 period moving average, 106, 107,000, 108. If you get a move back up to the 200 period moving average, then you could go to 109, 110, 111,000. I think you're going to rally back up towards the moving averages, and the 50 period is up here at 112,000. I don't know that we make it that far. Again, I'm going to show you the L8 wave count, and I think that's less likely. And I think you're going to get some kind of attempted bounce here, but eventually you're going to fall back to this level back over here. Please support the channel with the link directly below. That allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like the charts, you like the indicators, let me know that by supporting the channel. If you could take a moment to help out, I would really appreciate it. Most YouTube channels get sponsors, and that's how the channel makes their money. I choose not to do that. I turn those offers down. Just ask that you just step up to the plate and help out. And if you like the information, you take a moment to donate. I would really, really appreciate it. If you follow the link below to take you to a secured site, you can donate any amount you want. Thank you for your consideration for that. Again, if you watch the video all the way through, you'll see that I'm getting some bottoming signals. I had some the other day. Some went away, but you're going to get a bounce in all likelihood towards the 200, towards the 50 as they get a death cross. And I think the bottom's going to fall out of Bitcoin, moving back towards the April low. But I'm getting some bottoming signals. You'll see more if you watch the video all the way through. But signals are bearish. I think you're going to just get a counter trend bounce. I think the bull market is over, as I called the very day of the top. Predicted a crash down to the 100,000 area. Oh, gee, what happened? We topped and we crashed down to 100,000. I was right. I think you're going to get a bounce, and then I think you're going to get another liquidation move down to the April low, or maybe beyond it, as I've talked so much about. You'll see more of my amazing indicators at the end of the video. But we did get this head and shoulders pattern setting up. Do we just back test, or do we get a bigger throwback towards the 200 or 50 as a death cross attempts to take place? Right now we're trying to bounce off of horizontal support, 98,240 here. On the historical price, it's 98,333. We're becoming oversold here. Again, we may get another push down below this level, a little bit below this level, and even possibly below 98,000 here if we're completing a final fifth wave before a bigger rally. And I'll show you on the L8 wave count in just a moment. At the top, I predicted we were going to come down to Bitcoin's average price here in the daily time frame and the 50-week moving average and our 10-month moving average. And I told you we'd likely get a bounce around this area. Like we did back over here. We bounced around it, but eventually you lost this area. That's what's going to likely happen. I think you're going to go up and try to rally towards the 200, maybe just back test the neckline of the head and shoulders. It's a more feeble bounce, whichever, it doesn't matter. Again, I'm not interested in trying to call short-term price fluctuation. The main movement is down. You're going down to 74,000 down here, and you're forming this larger head and shoulders as I've been predicting. And I think you're going to try to bounce surrounding this area. But again, eventually we're moving to 74,000. So don't lose sight of the bigger picture. All these rallies that I keep telling you, again, that are in play, they're just short-term price fluctuations. Again, any rally back up is another opportunity for the bears to short and another opportunity for the longs to close their long positions. Eventually, look at the 100-period moving average here. Eventually, we're going to drop down below Bitcoin's average price. We're below it right now, but I mean drop below it and stay below it, and then eventually try to bottom out around 74,000 or 60 or 63,000. Or here you drop 52%. That would take us down to 60,000 before you got that bounce back up to Bitcoin's average price as the 100 period crossed below it. And again, then the bottom fell out of Bitcoin in the bear market. Bitcoin's average price has acted as support as the 50-week moving average. So in my mind, it is the line in the sand. You're taking it out right now. You'll probably get a bounce. You'll probably see something like this try to happen where we attempt a feeble recovery here towards the 200 period in the daily time frame, but then I think you're going to end up heading down to 74,000. And again, boys and the herd, they've just been completely blindsided by this whole sell-off. We've dropped, around 22% or so, just under 22% now. Again, you go down to 74,000, you're going down to 41%. You do what you did over here. To kick off the bear market, you drop 52%. You get a 50% or 52% haircut. 50% is 63,000. 52% is 60,000. But I think we drop into late December or January, and then I think the Fed panics in late December or January. More likely January. You get the emergency rate cuts, and Bitcoin will come down, and it will end up coming down here or just beyond here. Right here, I mean, you had a lopsided head and shoulders, so you could see that again. But Bitcoin could come down here, or even beyond this level, and then come up and get the right shoulder. And whoops, I went way too high on that. But I think you can go back towards 100,000, just under 100,000, or just over it. And again, this was over 100,000, as I've talked about. I think right around 109,000, I think, or something, 8 or 9,000, something like that. I'm going to bring this up close so you can see it. Again, we're trying to hit this horizontal support level back from the June 22nd low. And you're hitting Bitcoin's average price. Again, this is what I used to call the bottom when we hit horizontal support and Bitcoin's average price. Now, I don't think we have a bottom and, okay, now we're going to resume the bull market. The bull market's over, in my opinion. I think you're going to try to bounce surrounding this level towards the 200. Maybe, again, like I said, maybe you only get up to the neckline here, 106, 107, 108,000, whatever. But if you could try to rally to the 200 period or the 50 here as towards 109, 110, 111,000, 50 periods at 112, I don't think you're going to likely go above this height right here. But I do think you're going to get a bounce. And I think we're going to try to bounce surrounding this area, and I think you're going to go up, and they're going to proclaim it's over, it's over, it's over, and then Bitcoin's going to come down, and it's going to collapse down into here. You're in crash wave 3 right now, in my opinion. And again, just wanted to show you the moving average, the 200 period moving average, the 50 period moving average. I think you're going to bounce off Bitcoin's average price here. I think you'll get back above it. And again, I think you're going to stall in these levels with the 200 and the 50, or at this horizontal resistance. And again, I'm not interested in trying to predict the short-term price fluctuation here. I'm telling you the main movement, whether it's bigger or smaller, main movement is you're coming back down to the April low. That's the main movement. I'm not trying to day trade this. A shorting opportunity came back at the high, came back with the counter trend towards the 61.8 Fibonacci. So again, I remain short, and I believe we're going down to much lower levels. I'm ignoring short-term price fluctuations. I'm looking at the main movement, and in my opinion, that's down. As we're testing Bitcoin's average price here, likely going to try to bounce off of it. Notice over here, when you bounced off of it, you couldn't get back above the 100 period moving average. So again, I think you're going to get a bounce, and then I think you're going to see a bigger move down towards 74,000. But just as we're trying to bounce up Bitcoin's average price, and we likely will get a bounce here, Moon Boys will proclaim it's over, and how smart they are for calling another bottom. See, they called a fake breakout, We're blindsided by the flash crash, the liquidation move, the largest crypto liquidation in history. They were blindsided by the counter trend. We keep making new lows, and they keep telling us we've bottomed. Many of them right now are now proclaiming another bottom. These people are completely clueless to what's happening. As Bitcoin has topped, and it's now moved into a bear market. Just as Bitcoin's average price acted as support, so is the 50-week. Remember back up at the top, I told you eventually we're going down to the 50-week, down to 100,000 for a test. And I was laughed at. Oh, gee, what happened? I was right. And I told you we were going to turn off of these resistance levels. I warned you about those diversions on the RSI. I warned you about divergences in the weekly time frame. Again, on the MACD, on the price oscillator. Again, when the price oscillator moves into the negative region, we confirm a bear market, Bitcoin's going to go a whole lot lower. Again, we're hitting this trend line. Talked about this trend line. Talked about going to the 50-week moving average. Again, by the end of the week, we could be closing above the 50-week moving average like we did over here. And again, look what happened over here. You hit the 50-week, you drop below it, you didn't close below it. And then the next week, you were above it. Next week, we closed below it right here. The following week, you didn't confirm a bear market by closing below and getting the follow through, but you closed back above the 50-week. And then here, weeks later, sorry about that, weeks later, you closed below the 50-week, and then you got an open and a close below the 50-week, confirming the bear market. That's what needs to happen if we're going to confirm a bear market. It's more likely you're going to bounce here. I warned at the top, you're likely going back to the 50-week moving average. You'll probably bounce, but then eventually see something like this happen. I think we'll probably try to rally back up towards the horizontal resistance, 106, 107,000, or more likely the 200 period moving average towards 110,000. We can get a bottoming tail before the weekends like we had back over here. So again, regardless, I don't know which way it's going to play out. And I'm not interested in trying to predict short-term price fluctuations. The main movement is we're coming down here and you're forming a massive head and shoulders. That's the main movement that's happening. And then you're going to rebound back up, get a right shoulder and back test. And then you're going to see the bottom fall out of Bitcoin. And Bitcoin's going to move 80 or 90%, and again, it's going to end up dropping 41 to 52% right now, get a massive rally back up towards 100,000 or just above 100,000 to backtest this broken trend line, and then you're going to see Bitcoin likely come down to test 15,000 here. Again, if it drops 80%, you're looking at 25,000. If it drops 91% or so, long-term trend line of support, you're looking at 11,000, 12,000 for Bitcoin. Bear market we have right now could be bigger than this one because we're about to have a bad recession. We're going to have a financial crisis with the banks. Go to at Charting Prodigy on X. I wrote a whole thing about it yesterday. The Fed is injecting billions into the banks right now. The largest injection in 5 years. Boys are going, oh, it's QE. It's not QE, man. Banks are in serious trouble. They're in dire straits, trying to stave off a collapse and a banking crisis. They're not going to be successful. Moon boys that are telling us this, oh, it's QE, here we go, this is so bullish. It's not bullish, it's bearish. If you're having stress in the credit markets right now, you're starting to see it. Bitcoin's beginning to price in recession. It's beginning to price in this coming crisis. You just don't know it yet. You know, most people are oblivious that we're about to have another banking crisis. Read my post on that, wrote it all out, and I just wrote, why is this happening? Just to let you know. The other thing is be watching for the 50-50 signal. You got it right now. You're getting a 50-50 sell signal. You're dropping below the 50-week moving average. RSI is dropping below 50. This is where the bottoms have been. More likely, you're getting what we have over here, where you drop below 50 on the RSI. You try to bounce around the 50-week moving average. Eventually, you close below it. Okay, and when you close below it and you close below the 50 level on the RSI, you have a 50-50 sell signal. And if you, like I said, open and close, you close below it, and then you open and close below it, you confirm a bear market. How you know that Bitcoin's confirming a bear market. Below the 50-week moving average, getting a 50-50 sell signal, and then opening and closing below the 50-week moving average, confirms it. And here we rally back up to the 50-week, but it got rejection there. Again, notice the RSI remained in the negative region through the entire decline. If we bounce off the 50-week by the end of the week, I think you got a good shot. You're going to try to bounce off the 50-week. Now, if you break this trend line, you confirm a bear market, then it's over. Yeah, maybe we get some bounce. Maybe we don't. I'm not interested in some rinky-dink little bounce. I'm interested in the main movement. And again, I'm shorting this divergence and shorting this resistance. I have no interest in some little bounce that a counter trend in a major decline. Down when we get the bigger sell-off, expect a bigger rally back up. I'll have interest in that, but not these short-term little price fluctuations. I'm interested in the main movement. Bounce here. If we try to bounce surrounding Bitcoin's average price and the 50-week moving average, the moon boys are going to tell us it's a bullish falling wedge. Again, the people that told us we had a breakout at the top. People that were blindsided by the largest liquidation in crypto history. People that told us we had a bottom there, which it wasn't. The people that told us, like back over here, oh, Powell, Jackson Hole speech, here we go, and we turned. People that told us, oh, the Fed just cut, here we go, and we turned. People are oblivious to what's going on. They're perma bulls going to end up riding Bitcoin all the way down as they always do because they have a presuppositional bias. They're going to tell us right now, and I predicted the invert. Remember? Told you they're going to tell us an inverse head and shoulders up until we go lower. And a bunch of them did it. I was right, but we took out the 200. You're likely going to try to rally back up to this 250 as we get the death cross. The death cross is coming. You're going to see the bottom begin to fall out of Bitcoin. And I think 116,000 is gone. I think 126,000 is gone. Okay, the only hope is if this is forms a leading diagonal, that you end up getting a bigger retracement. I doubt that that's possible. It's still got a shot at playing out. I think it's more likely you have wave 1, 2, and you're now in crash wave 3, crashing back towards 74,000 or 60,000 or so. I think we bounce, and I think we go to these moving averages, or again, horizontal resistance for the head and shoulders, and you get more of a feeble rebound. If you get something bigger, then be watching again the 200, the 50 period, for a possible test. As I'm making the video, Bitcoin right now on Friday down 0.62%. Again, I think you've got a completion of the top up here. I think we've started a wave 1, primary wave 1 right here in a 5-leg push lower. I think you've got an ABC back up to 116,000 for wave 2. I think you're now in crash wave 3. Surrounding the 50-week moving average and Bitcoin's average price, you're going to try to get some kind of rebound back up towards the 50 and the 200 for an intermediate wave 2 of primary wave 3. I believe we are already in crash wave 3. I think it's already started from 116,000, and I think that you're going to try to bounce here. I think you're getting your first intermediate wave. Maybe you go a little bit under here because, again, I'm looking for a 5-leg push lower. The rebound back up was 4. And again, you may have a truncated 5th where they're equal, but if you go a little bit lower, you've got a 5-leg push lower. And then I think you rally back up towards the 200 for intermediate wave 2 of primary wave 3. And you know what's going to follow after that? Then you're going to get your third of the third. And if this plays out, say we go a little bit lower here or try to bottom here at the truncated 5th, you come up here, you get your intermediate wave 2. You have intermediate wave 1, you got intermediate wave 2, and maybe it's bigger. Maybe you try to go to that 50 period and you get above this high right here. I just think you can stall around that 200 period moving average and the 50 as they're about to get a death cross, but maybe you get something a little bigger or try to overthrow them and get a larger retracement of this decline. Certainly possible. Don't want to rule it out, but I think that's going to be the final exit point. And I don't think you're going above 116,000 again this cycle. I don't think you're going above 126,000. You've topped, and I think that 116,000 is likely gone. And I think you're in crash wave 3, and I think you have intermediate wave 1. I think you're going to get intermediate wave 2, and maybe you get, 110, 112,000. Maybe you get closer to 116. Again, if you do, it's a gift to the bears. It's an opportunity for the longs to get out. But if I'm correct and we bounce off the 50-week and we bounce off Bitcoin's average price and we try to rally back up, I think you're getting your intermediate wave 2, and that's going to be followed by this massive crash move, and that's going to be moving us down towards the 74,000 area and maybe beyond. You picking up what I'm throwing down? It's coming down, man. I'm going to zoom out here and show you. If we go down 52% like we did before, you're coming down here, towards 60 or 63,000. You're going to take out 74,000. Again, this would be that we have this extended wave 3 coming down to the 74,000 area, or maybe just to it and try to bounce. Again, we don't have to come down 52%, but I certainly wouldn't rule it out. But again, I'm going to be looking. Once this wave 2, intermediate wave 2 is done, if I'm correct and we bounce, you're going to get your intermediate wave 3. Let me just bring it up closer. You got your 1, your 2. You're going to get your 3 and maybe a 4 and a 5. Hang on, let me move that and adjust that. Coming down to the 74,000, you get a 4 and maybe a 5. And again, maybe we find support. 74,000, you still may try to take it out. I think by late December, January over here somewhere, I think that's where the Fed panics. But I think you're forming this head and shoulders, and maybe you get a slanted neckline, move beyond 74,000. But I'm telling you, I think we're at least going down 41% down to test 74,000. You got a good shot. We're going to take it out and see something like this. I think you're going to get a massive rally back up towards 100,000 or just over it. But if we overthrow it here, you may not reach it. Scott, did you hear what I said? We would rally back up towards the 200 as it starts to roll over. And again, that would be a massive counter trend. This is the main movement that I'm looking at capturing, maybe to 74,000, maybe down to 60 or 63,000. But that is the movement that I'm looking at trying to capture. Our chart, again, we still may go lower. These lows could be pointing to the next low. You're forming divergences. The last one just gave us a very feeble bounce, and then it ended up really filling. I've used these divergences on the RSI to call the tops and bottoms. It's done a very nice job. This one pretty much failed. Now you're trying to form another one. Again, if we go down a little bit lower, you can have a 5-leg push lower. And here's the count right here. Again, 1, primary wave 2. Then you've got what I've marked here, a 5-leg push lower, 1, 2, 3, 4, and maybe 5 here for this first intermediate wave of primary wave 3. Rally back up, attempt. Sorry, I had a cough here. You rally back up, try to recover some of this. You get intermediate wave 2 of crash primary wave 3. Again, we are already in crash wave, primary wave 3. You're getting these smaller intermediate waves, likely wrapping up the first intermediate wave of crash wave 3. Rebound will likely be intermediate wave 2 of crash wave 3, and then that's going to be followed by the third of the third, which is going to be very ugly. Trying to form a divergence on the MACD, you're trying to form it on the RSI, you'll probably form a bottom surrounding Bitcoin's average price and the 50-week moving average and attempt a recovery. Moon Boys will proclaim it's over. It's likely your intermediate wave 2 is going to be followed by crash wave 3, and you're going to see, again, I keep saying it, you're going to see more liquidation moves. We had more here, and we had it right after the top. After we get this next rally, you're going to see a massive liquidation move. And again, I've got some signals that are showing bottoming signals. Others don't have it yet. I think you're going to see some kind of bottom here and a rebound. A bottoming signal had tried to form right here, but it wasn't successful. Other signals are forming bottoming signals. You could rally back all the way up to the 200 and still have signals remain bearish. Again, you can get a big rally like what we had back over here, but signals still remained bearish. I had a bottoming signal. I had a bottoming signal here, but it didn't complete again. Some bottoming signals, others haven't played out. We're trying to get another one here, but it's not a major bottoming signal. So it could turn into that where the session ends, and again, it won't be final when we close. Even if it's not a major bottoming signal, you can still rally, produce a counter trend. But I do expect a bottom is going to form around the 50-week moving average. I think we'll be rallying back up towards the 200 or 50-period moving average. Maybe even overthrow them as we get a death cross. Intermediate wave 2 of crash wave primary wave 3. Our signals nailed the top. Let's see if we bounce off the 50-week moving average. This is a weekly chart of Bitcoin. No bottoming signal here yet. Just a bigger picture of what I think is going on. Again, we're dropping down to 74,000 or towards 60 to 63,000. Then I think you get a big rally back up. If we move to new lows, and maybe it's not as big as I've marked right here, back up towards the 200 period, which will be falling by that time. If we attempt to bounce off the 50-week moving average and Bitcoin's average price, again, the purple line right here, you're likely moving back towards it, maybe even overthrowing it like we did over here. It'll be resistance. It's pointing down like it was over here. It was resistance. Over here it was support. So again, I think you're going to try to bottom and get a counter trend rally. Still might push lower. Listen, did you hear what I just said? We still might push lower before we get that bounce. The wave 5 of our first intermediate wave lower is not yet done. Still in a downtrend. Nice sell signal there at the 116,000 area. Breakdown and back test as I warned. Bars are still red here. Signal's just nailing it. Signal's trying to form a bottoming signal here. Again, I told you we were going down to the pink line right here, back up at the top. Rally back up the orange and purple line of resistance. You'll likely rally towards those levels and get a Fibonacci retracement, and then you're going to see a move down towards 74,000. Getting some bottoming signals. Others don't have it yet. Got one right here a couple of days ago. And I think it's likely you're going to try to bounce towards the 200, towards the 50 as they get a death cross up here. The 50 and the 200. The green line's the 50, the black line's the 200. MicroStrategy taking out 231.51. Again, confirming a double top. If we close that way, that's bad. If we don't close that way, you can try to get a bounce. The fact that you are taking out that confirmation line, you bounce or not, is really a bad signal for Bitcoin that Bitcoin has topped. Got an Adam and Eve double top here, just like we had back over here. MicroStrategy, I have that pattern down here. You can see it. And again, we're now taking out the confirmation line. Even if we bounce, you've done the damage. You're taking out the confirmation line, signaling that Bitcoin has likely topped like it did back over here when we got the double top, Adam and Eve double top at the 2021 peak for Bitcoin. MicroStrategy formed that same pattern and confirmed it.